Hello, welcome back to the We All Follow the Forest podcast. And this week it's episode 4. We're going to be talking about all the latest that's been happening with Nottingham Forest, obviously coming off the back of that 1-1 draw with Brentford at home. It was an interesting match, to say the least. There was definitely things we could have done better. There was a lot of things that we can share positive thoughts about. In particular, the mentality that we showed, debuts for some players. And I just think overall some of the performances that we've seen from some of the newer lads and the kind of gelling that we're seeming to show now has been really impressive. So I've got Declan on with me today to talk a little bit about that. So Declan, how are you? And welcome making your own podcast debut today.
Yeah, thank you, mate. It's nice to be here. I've watched all the previous episodes. Good iteration. I like the direction that this is going.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Well, I'm liking the way the direction that Forest are going in, and that's why we've got you here to come and speak today, because we're coming off the back of a 1-1 draw with Brentford, which for me personally, I wanted more from that game. I wanted more from that, and that before the game, I wanted more from that because I thought Brentford come off. I think it was a loss to Everton away.
Everton was away, yeah.
I think it was 3-1 or something like that.
Either way, it was a poor Everton side against a poor Brentford side. Well, an underwhelming Brentford side.
So really, we should have got. I felt before the game we should be going in looking to get a win. We've got the home form, if you will. We've not lost since I think United at home. So I wanted to try and get something more. But then looking at the game, given the circumstances of the red card and other things that were that happened during the game, a controversial offside, which I'm not too sure about still. I thought that 1-1 was actually, in the end, a fair result. Things we could have done better, but overall, the right result.
Yeah, I think after watching the game, 1-1 was more than fair, if not a little bit unfair towards them. They definitely had 2 penalty shots they probably should have had. A Domiguez handball, which then luckily bounced into Boly's hand, so they only checked the Boly handball, and that wasn't a handball. But if they'd rolled it back all of 3 seconds, I think personally, biased aside, it's a very clear-cut penalty. If that's happening against us, it's a handball in the box. Like, for example, remember when Maguire threw his hand up all the way up to like here, and it just smacked off his arm? That wasn't a penalty, and we were all very upset that wasn't a penalty. But again, it's tits and tats. Sometimes we get them, sometimes we don't. It's nice that Forest get a better look. And then going on to the Brentford second penalty shout, Wissa gets absolutely clattered by Matt Turner. In fairness, and with a bit of bias, Turner is only looking at the ball the entire time. So the fact that he takes the man with him and he doesn't touch the ball, it's a bit unfortunate. Wissa does also throw himself at the man, but then putting my full bias on it, I don't care, because if you look at what Wissa did last year, where he threw himself over Dean Henderson and got himself a penalty when Henderson didn't touch him, it's whatever. I don't think any of us are bothered that he didn't get a penalty there. So
it fully ruined my day. Do you know when he got that penalty against Dean Henderson? That fully ruined my day, because even now, it's just that minimal contact, like that's it's so minimal when you're looking at the replay. But with the Matt Turner one, do you think that maybe if Wissa had gone down, because he seemed to get up pretty quickly, like nothing had happened?
If Wissa had stayed down, that had 100% been checked by VAR, and the ref would have certainly just gone like that, bam, penalty, and that's probably 3 points gone. Just like that. As you said, from the start, before the game, and in maybe the first 10-15 minutes of the game, I was 100% wanting more. Everyone seemed to be hungry for the 3 points, and I'm not just talking about like the players, but also every fan that I spoke to, or anyone that wasn't necessarily even football orientated. They seemed that Forest looked like they had the opening chances in a bit. Obviously, the offside goal, I don't think it was controversial, to be fair. I think he seemed pretty offside. I think it was unfair to give. But yeah, I think we were lucky to walk away with a 1-1 draw, but then I also think it was deserved because we had the better chances, I think, on paper, but we didn't have as many.
I think that the red card really hurt because it came at a time when we were already struggling a little bit, that second half where you're kind of thinking, okay, Matt Turner, the way he started that second half, and we're going to talk about Matt Turner in just a moment, actually, after I made this point, but I thought that just kind of threw us off a bit, and I feel bad for Niakate because it was another yellow card and it was a red card. It was a sending off. I don't want to hear about it wasn't a yellow card. He's put studs to the Achilles pretty much. You can't not give a yellow for that. And it's a double yellow red, and that's it. I think a game suspension. So it's unfortunate, but the fight that we showed after going down to 10 men was really impressive. But Matt Turner in particular, I think, really created that struggle at the start of the second half. And I don't like to single out players, but Matt Turner in that second half was absolutely, it was terrifying to watch him. It was terrifying.
It was very, very worrying. I remember, so I watch every game with my dad, if I can, no matter how. I'm not going to say how we're able to watch the game, but every time I watch the football with my dad, it's always Forest, and we all sit there watching and we give our thoughts to each other. And I said, after the first time, Matt Turner kind of, I don't know, he drew a player in a bit too close on a pass back, and I was like, he's playing a dangerous game. It's gonna fuck us up. Mind my language. I don't know what we're like for PG and whatnot on the stream, but and I was like, I don't know. I think it's just whatever keeper does. Their keeper's done. I went, no, he's taking it too far. Watch, and then the next opportunity he takes is when he comes out. He comes out to the halfway line and he has to volley it, and it just goes straight up. And my dad's like, okay, I see what you're saying. And then 5 minutes later, it's the Whistler opportunity, and what should have been a penalty. Even my dad sat there with me and was like, that's a penalty all day long. If that happens to Forest, you're kicking off because it should be. But yeah, just the amount of times it'd take too long, or the pass would go wayward, or he'd just absolutely hoof it up front. We've brought Matt Turner in from him being a second to him now being a first, and I think so far this season I've sang all his praises. If you look at some recent tweets from me, especially against when those Everton fans kicked off about how no one gets into their team, I defended Matt Turner and I put him ahead of even Pickford. But I think after last after the last game's performance, I think he's lost his shirt personally. My dad said the same thing. A couple of other Forest fans I've spoke to have also said the same thing. It's time to get, is it Vlachodimos? I don't want to mispronounce it, but you get the point. I think it's time to show it. Let's see what he can do. Title winner, it was Benfica, wasn't it? I'm not thinking. Yeah. It's time to show him what now a proper top tier goalkeeper can do. Matt Turner's a top tier goalkeeper, World Cup goalkeeper, second for Arsenal for a reason. But I think he's shown now why he is a second. He's just a bit panicked, I think, and that's what he showed against Brentford.
Yeah, I think there's been a couple of occasions before where he's kind of done a little bit of a risky kick, but kind of got away with it because the rest of his performance has been pretty perfect. And it's really hard to drop a goalkeeper like Matt Turner. And I think that these little mistakes are actually the only opportunities you will get to drop him and try someone else because he's been that good so far, I'd say. I think that Vlachodimos, obviously, 200 or so pro appearances for Benfica. A bit of a fallout with the coach is why he left. He signed for £9 million or something like that. He's a great goalkeeper, and I do want to see him play. But at the same time, it's really difficult to see why you drop Matt Turner. But I suppose now you've got that opportunity because that second half wasn't good enough. And if Forest had started with a bit more momentum, who knows how that second half could have gone? Because I did want more from that game. I mean, I'm not going to deny it. Even after the game, I'm thinking, we could have done better in certain situations. The 1v1s. I thought we could have done so much better because they've got good defenders, Brentford, 100%. But our wingers, I do think they could have done more in that game. But at the same time, it is an okay result. So let's turn our attention then let's start from the back line and we'll go for Murillo because that was his first game for Forest and it was a start. And it was a big game as well because obviously, Brentford's one of them teams where when they come to your ground, you think you can maybe get 3 points there. It's not going to be easy because it never is. It's the Premier League, but you're hoping you can get 3 points and you're putting a lot of trust in Murillo, especially in a back four. So what would you say? How would you assess his performance against Brentford?
I mean, personally, I thought he had a quality game. He was certainly one of our better centre-backs going up there. For a debut, as far as debut goes, I think it was pretty solid. He had the odd wayward pass, but to put it into perspective and add a bit of context, he's come from across the world. He's starting in a new country, a brand new city, a whole new environment, and he's just been thrown into a Premier League game. I think that was his first Forest start, full stop, wasn't it? So yeah, to start his first Forest game, not in the cup, not in. I don't know if he was in the under-23s or anything like that for a game or two, but just to be thrown straight into the Premier League, into the action, home game, play the whole full 103 minutes, 104 minutes, I think it was. I think he did. He showed instances of quality. Like he had a little bit of a dribble on the wing, just by the halfway line, flicked it through to a ball to Domiguez. Unfortunately, the pass from Domiguez then didn't play off, so it wasn't really a proper goal scoring opportunity. But I think as far as his defensive work went, his heading, his positioning, his marking, everything that you'd want in a defender or a modern defender today for a centre half, he showed He's got great potential. He's so young, and he's absolutely built. Exactly what you want.
He's said to be one of the best left-sided defenders in Brazil, which is, obviously that was what he was accredited for before he joined Forest. And now he's got to make a new history for himself, this time at the City Ground. And it was a good way to start off, I thought. And as you say, a couple of passes that weren't quite brilliant. But, the way he recovered the ball, the clearances, the very close clearances that he made near the goal area, he showed, not only did he show potential to improve even further, but he showed, the kind of performance of a player that can jump in the first team every week. And that's not easy to say for any Premier League team, because to be able to get into the first team every week, bear in mind, get minutes every week, you have to be a quality player. And I thought he was brilliant. But I'm going to also say about Ibrahim Sangare, because he looks like every single game he's making massive improvements. Man City away, he was still kind of struggling to get the pace of the Premier League a little bit, but eventually he got it. And you've got to remember he's playing against the likes of Foden and Walker, and trying to mark them.
He's playing against treble winners at the moment.
He's so difficult.
The best side in the world.
He's never going to outpace any of those, I don't think. But the positioning in the game against Brentford was perfect, I thought. He broke up the play really well. There was instances where he got past 3 or 4 players and recovered the ball for Forest. He was always forward thinking. He was getting up the pitch really well. I thought his attitude was spot on, and you can tell that his confidence was just low against Burnley. Even though he didn't have a terrible game, his confidence was low, and you can really see he's growing into his time at Forest. So he's really exciting. So what did you make of his performance then, and how important do you think he's going to be for the next few fixtures for Forest?
Well, for your basic summary, I completely agree with that. As you said, I think the confidence wasn't there for Burnley. It's what not let us down, but I certainly think that the addition to him in midfield against Burnley, I think it was either too early or it wasn't enough. Maybe we should have brought in. I don't know what else we had on the bench available. I don't know whether Yates was on. Obviously, last game, Yates and Aina, for example, weren't even on the bench full stop. So they must have picked a knock-up. What that's about. Anyway, before I get sidetracked. Burnley, he showed again glimpses of being like this world class midfielder that we've bought from PSV. A bit too early, as you said, got to match up to the pace. Against City, it's going to be even harder because it's not against the newly promoted side, which are going to be scrappy. It's going to be against absolute world beaters. As I've just said about for a couple of minutes ago, easily the best side in the world, one of the best sides in the Premier League we've seen in probably the past decade. They're just absolutely unplayable on their day. Obviously, they have just been beat by Wolves, so I kind of got to watch my words because I'm clearly wrong. But yeah, against Brentford, he was really good. Again, a couple of instances of maybe a wayward pass or maybe a bit of laziness, but it wasn't anything to probably critique. Again, it's finding himself in a new city, a new country. Luckily, it's not the same thing as Murillo, where he's come from one end of the world to the opposite. It's literally just a short hop over the channel, but it's still new beginnings. It's still completely different pace. The Eredivisie is a completely different pace to the Premier League. So I think give him, I don't know, February, and he'll easily establish himself as one of, if not the best midfielder in our roster, alongside Domiguez at the moment, and obviously Morgan, but Morgan plays a bit higher up.
Yeah, I when I went to go and watch Sangare when Forest played PSV, obviously at that time none of us knew if he was signing or not, and we thought, how good actually is this guy? Because this is a good opportunity for us to see. It's pre-season, so obviously it's going to be toned down a little bit, but we're going to get to see just how good this guy is. And I do remember Forest fans saying, he didn't do a lot, though, did he? Didn't do a lot. And it's like, well, you're expecting him to run box to box. He's playing that number 6 role. All he did against Forest was he broke down the play well, recovered the ball for PSV, maybe put it back to their defenders, or put in a ball up. He's there to link the play. And him and Mangala did that. I think have been doing that really well. And Mangala's actually one that I think is criminally underrated in the and I'm not just talking about for Forest, I'm talking about in the Premier League, because I've said it since last season. His technique has been superb. Now, his first appearance, I'm pretty sure, was against Everton, and it was Everton Forest away at Goodison, if I'm not mistaken, and it was him and Lewis O'Brien. And this is the only reason I really miss Lewis O'Brien, because I thought that him and Mangala just worked so well. There was something magic about them where they were just brilliant together. But when he got that injury, it really took him apart a bit, and he came back and it was a slow start. But after that, he really showed good composure on the ball. He was obviously very physical. He got himself involved. And now He seems to be running everywhere on the pitch, and he's just a complete workhorse. So for me, he gets in that team every single week. And I hate to say it because I love Ryan Yates and I want him to get game time, but you're not going to pick Ryan Yates over Oral Mangala, and you're not going to pick him over Ibrahim Sangare at the moment because it's just different levels. Mangala is that Premier League quality midfielder. Sangare is that Premier League quality midfielder. Dominguez is that Premier League quality midfielder. And Yates has Premier League quality, but does he have it to the extent of these boys? I'm not too sure. And that's horrible to say because I love Yates, as I say. But Mangala, wow, what a player. I mean, do you not think that £11 million or whatever we bought him for is an absolute steal?
It's a very, very good bit of business. It's the same thing as swapping Freuler for Domiguez. It's absolutely criminal from whoever was behind it. Whoever's sat on the Forest board and organised that one, genuinely, you want an OBE and a fucking knighthood because he's absolutely brilliant. As you said, Mangala, he struggled with an injury last season. I remember watching him against Tottenham in the Cup, and he got an unfortunate sending off, which was easily a bit of bias from the ref. It wasn't a sending off, but I weren't going down that alleyway. But yeah, he's been absolutely quality. As you said, he's that exact same type of like professional as like Ryan Yates in the midfield. He's just non-stop box to box. He's everywhere all at once. He's not as like what's the word? Like as enforcive, I guess you could say, as Ryan Yates. Ryan Yates lets you know he's there. Like you don't care. He will just absolutely run through you. He's brilliant. I love Ryan Yates to bits. I think Nottingham lad, born and bred. He's been with us for how long now? Obviously, and I'm a bit of a sucker for loyalty, which is why when Worrell gets a bit of flack, I defend him as well because it's like he's giving his all. You can't really fault him. But yeah, Mangala's exactly what we want from Yates, exactly what Yates was giving, but he's got the added bit of flair to him and then a bit more ability and technical on the ball, which Ryan Yates lacks. Don't get me wrong, Ryan Yates has been coming on a bit with his technical ability and with his feet and his ability to look forward and get the ball forward. But Mangala clearly does it better. He's got so much more about him and he's so much quicker as well. He's a bit more, I don't know, a bit more to him than Ryan Yates.
And then Domiguez as well is just another level above again, because I think Domiguez, as you say, it's a criminal like bit of business really from Forest, but at the same time, Freuler in Italy is highly regarded as one of the better midfielders in Italy. For Bologna, they're getting a class Italian midfielder, and for Domiguez, he's going to get his dream move to the Premier League, and he's going to just jump in that Forest team and just do bits, because that's what he did. He jumped in that Forest team against Manchester City, and we were all thinking, I don't know, is this the right time to drop him in? And he proved that it's the right time to drop him in and that there's no wrong time to drop him in because he's there. He's available 24/7. He wants to get the ball forward. We're saying what we said last week, but this time he's got a looping header. And what a header it was, by the way. And whether people saying, because I heard it on the commentary the other day, and they were giving a lot of, flats to the goalkeeper. He should do better. He should do better. Why don't you just give credit for the header? Because that was an incredible header. Like, you've looped it over the keeper from a header, not from a volley, not from on the floor. You've headed it over him. And it's a great way to get your first goal in only your second game, by the way. This guy is special. He's special. And I truly believe that this guy will go on to be one of our most important midfielders if he's not already at the moment.
I was going to say he's easily probably one of our best midfielders up there. Obviously, Domiguez, he seems to play a little bit further back than Morgan, if not maybe on the same bit. But Morgan gets further a bit easier, and he's got a bit more flair about him. But I think so far, Domiguez in the 2 games he showed this season anyway. I'm not saying Morgan Gibbs-White last season because that's a different caliber. He's shown that he's better than Morgan. Don't get me wrong, when Morgan came on, you saw the impact he had. He kind of lifted everyone about. He was always darting about the place. I mean, look at the tackle he had done. It was like the 6-yard box or whatever it was. Phenomenal from Morgan Gibbs-White. But so far, Domiguez has been absolutely influential, and I don't think we can go without him being in that midfield. It's the same with... I've lost my train of thought now, what else I was going to say. But yeah, the point still stands there. So
for Morgan then, Morgan Gibbs-White, he was... obviously, such a huge part of our, fight against relegation and eventually us surviving relegation. And this season, he hasn't really got off the mark yet. He's just struggled a little bit. I'm thinking it might be a bit because he's tired. He's played so much throughout the summer as well with the England under-21s, and he's only had a little break. And now a lot of pressure's back on his shoulders. I don't know whether he's up to pace just yet. But Steve Cooper, I think, made the right decision to rest him against Brentford. And it was unusual because we thought, well, hold on a minute, how are Forest going to do when you've got, no Morgan Gibbs-White, because he seems to be like the kind of the heart of the team, or he was last season, for the flair, etc. But this season, I think he struggled to do the simple things right, and he looks a little bit jaded, like something else is kind of keeping him occupied. So I think really resting him was the right decision, giving Hudson-Odoi and Elanga a little bit more freedom. But at the same time, when he came on, he started to show that quality again, because he just looked like that kind of coming off the bench, wants to make that impact, and it was kind of the adrenaline really got him going, and he was just excellent, I thought. And the way he tracked Mbeumo's run to make that tackle on the edge of the 6-yard box, I thought was just phenomenal, because he watched him every single moment. He knew that pass was going to be made, and he didn't want to intercept the pass too early and lose his man. He ran with Mbeumo and put in an absolutely pinpoint tackle and stopped him. I thought he was perfect, because it just goes to show that Morgan Gibbs-White isn't just good for tricks. He isn't just good for Trivela passes, to Taiwo. He isn't just good for, any kind of through ball or anything. He can do it all. And that proved it. And that showed the mentality that you want from not only one of your star players, if not the star player in the team, but from your team as a collective, really.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was looking through Twitter on the response to resting Morgan as well, and on the run up to it, when the team sheet got announced, there was and ahhing into, well, how are we going to be going forward then? Who's going to be our outlet going forward? Who's going to be the one that links that midfield, like press or collective, to the front, to the forwards? As you said, it was nice to see the wingers again getting a shout. It looked good against Burnley. Obviously, we then all of a sudden fell apart against Burnley and we forgot how to defend, but I won't go down that route. But yeah, Hudson-Odoi had a great game. Obviously, it was unfortunate that the wingers had to get brought off because of Niakhate's unfortunate sending off. But Elanga looked like he was only just getting into that game at that point as well. He had like spurts of talent going forward, but I think he got shut out pretty much on that right hand flank for us. Their left back did keep him out pretty well. Hudson-Odoi looked, again, now I'm going to go back to the same point I just said. He looked really good going forward. He looked like he could drive forward, get the ball in the box, pass the ball forward. I mean, there was a couple of times I think he got the ball forward to a wanting for a one-on-one or for a wanting to run onto, and it looked really good. It was literally something like you were seeing from Morgan Gibbs-White doing, just it was a different lad on the pitch in a different position. It shows that we don't need Morgan Gibbs-White now just to have an offensive outlet anymore. We've got enough quality in the team to be able to produce from majority places on the pitch, from majority people on the pitch as well. It's a really good, satisfying feeling to be able to watch Forest go forward, and it's not having to be focused through one player and funneled through the same spot time and time again.
Yeah, I agree. And it was one thing I mentioned last year in a stream. I can't remember what stream it was, but it's about dependency. And for a Premier League team to be successful, they can't be dependent on just one player. And, even Man City have struggled without Rodri. And I'm not saying by any means that they're dependent on Rodri to be a very good team, because Man City have always been, since Pep has been at that team, a Premier League winning team that's capable of winning the trophies all around the country and all around Europe. But they've struggled without Rodri because he's obviously their star man. He does a lot, and you only realise how much he does really when he's not there. And for Forest, I was worried that would be the same with Gibbs-White. But now we've got a lot of players in, we've got more depth. I'm not too worried about that. But that being said, I do have to ask the question, does Elanga maybe look a little bit more comfortable on the left-hand side? Because when he's played on the right wing, he's looked good, don't get me wrong, and he's played a good game, but he just hasn't looked as comfortable for me. So does he look better on the left for you as well?
Yeah, I mean, I said this when he was paired with Hudson-Odoi. I think it was against Burnley for the first time, when we showed that four at the back and the four going forward. Like, on paper, it's a really frightening outlet. Again, I'm going to keep using that term because it's a collective of attackers. But Elanga on the right, he looks better on the left than he does on the right. And although we didn't get to see him for much on the left as we did against, we didn't get to see him on the left basically at all, because he got brought off as soon as he got swapped. Again, it's unfortunate. Hopefully we'll see more of it. But Hudson-Odoi, I think he's able to play on both sides. Obviously, I mean, Elanga's able to play on both sides, hence why he's on the right. But as far as I remember, at United, he played on the left. And when he showed those ounces of quality, it was on the left. Don't get me wrong. Elanga, again, he's already got the goal and the assist to him. But I think that was before Hudson-Odoi was in the team sheet at all. So maybe if we start playing Elanga to his qualities and let Hudson-Odoi try to bloom into it, because Odoi seems to have a bit more about him quality-wise going forward. Elanga's stupidly quick, like arguably up there with probably Jono. But it's about what else can he bring forward other than just running past the man? Is he able to duck and dive past the man type of thing, and the other's a 1-2 and then dart past. It's Hudson always seems to be able to do it all going forward. Elanga seems to be able to do half the trick. So maybe it's just because he's on his weak side and he's not too sure, he's on his wrong foot. Obviously, I think they're both right-footed, so being able to cut in from the left onto your stronger foot to either get a ball in, get a shot off, we'll wait and see from Elanga's point of view. Obviously, we've already seen it from Hudson, because obviously we saw that absolute worldie of a goal against Burnley. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw that go in, but yeah, hopefully we see a bit more quality from him. He's clearly got it. He's already done bits for Forest so far. Like I said, he's got the goal, he's got the assist, but it's now, can he keep this form up? Can he keep it going? Can he nurture himself into a proper starter for the team instead of just being another asset that probably sits on the bench?
Yeah, because I know there's been a lot of things about impact sub, and I think it's hard to make a player like Elanga an impact sub, because I do think he has a lot to offer. And I do think he's still trying to settle in. And he has got a goal and he has got an assist already for Forest. So he's not doing bad at all. And as you say, his pace is just unreal. And it's not just his pace, it's his pace actually on the ball, because they're two completely different things. I think when people say pace, I think they mean just that ability to run. But, you know, to have the ability to run quick, keep the ball close to you and get past a man is just a completely different skill altogether. And that's why Kyle Walker is probably one of the best, if not the best, in the world for doing that. Probably Alphonso Davies is up there from Bayern Munich as well. You know, Vinicius Jr. These guys, Mbappe, you know, the reason that they are the best in the world and they're regarded for their pace is not simply because they can run fast onto a through ball. It's because they can run fast with the ball and do everything with that whilst going at ridiculous speeds. And for me, Elanga does absolutely have the quality to do that. I mean, maybe not to the extent of Vinicius Jr. or Mbappe. I'm not making any comparison by any means. But for our level, he's more than capable of doing that. And he showed that at Arsenal. He showed glimpses of that at Chelsea, you know, when he was on that left-hand side and he was, you know, doing skills around the corner flag. He was excellent. So for me, I think he's done really well so far. He just needs to get a little bit of confidence. Maybe playing on the left side suits him a little bit better. But I suppose time will tell. But another player that I want to talk about who just looks comfortable no matter what and has been our rock at the back, by the way. And we were talking about Murillo earlier, and I should have actually mentioned him straight after. But Willy Boly, I thought he was in contention for player of the month this month. He's been brilliant. I thought he was in contention for man of the match the other night as well, because I just think he's so consistent. You know, if you keep him fit, he's arguably the best defender Forest have got.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a graphic on Twitter, I think it was a couple of days ago now, just after the what do you call it, Brentford game, and it was showing his consistent ratings. And for a centre back in the Forest backline, obviously, again, we were touted as going down this season or being a relegation scrap, and so far it doesn't look like that just yet. We're a mid-table side, pundits are getting to us, but to say that we've got so much like flack coming towards us, like on other teams' attack, the quality that we faced so far, we've had City, Chelsea, all these big teams that have come forward to us and attacked, and Boly's been there basically every single time and time again, and he's proven that he's deserved his spot. He's got constant match ratings. If you're a statistical nerd and you look on, you don't watch the game, you just go straight to the stats like your XG, your assisted, your X assist, your X goals, all of that. Then Willy Boly proves again, even for you people that only go to stats, I think he's on a consistent like 7.3 or 7.4 match rating in the last like 5-6 games. And as I've said, this isn't in the Championship anymore or in a cup run. This is in the Premier League, where we're also facing the top sides in the top half of the table, not just your relegation candidates like Burnley, for example, although he was a bit shaky against them, I think, if I remember, but he still proved that he was worth his spot. Alongside Murillo, he looked really, really good, personally. Obviously, Murillo has that bit of flair about him going forward. He's like a much, much younger Philippe. He's able to just walk the ball forward and pass it on. And Boly's more of that just absolute unit at the back. You don't get past him, or in the air, you don't beat him, or you'd hope not anyway. But yeah, he's been really good so far.
Well, you play Football Manager, so I'm going to use the term no nonsense centre back. Yeah. That's how I describe Willy Boly, because I think that's what he is.
It is just when Boly gets himself on the ball, instead of, obviously, as I've just said, Murillo is more of the person to drive the ball forward and get a nice pass off. I picture, as soon as Willy Boly gets the ball, that Peter Kay episode where he just goes, have it, and the ball goes just miles away and ends up in someone's back garden. That's how I picture Willy Boly as a centre back, and that's not even in a bad like way that I picture that. He's brilliant. He brings a lot to the back line. He's got the experience there. He's got the height, the strength, and the attitude towards it. Like, when have you ever seen Willy Boly like off the pitch having anything wrong with him or in any drama outside?
I've never seen someone compare Willy Boly to anything related to Peter Kay, but Declan's just done it. So you can clip that bit and you can save it, because I've never seen anybody do that. But fair enough, Declan. I see what you mean. Willy Boly for me, for the 2 million, 3 million that we signed him for, and potentially rising to 4 million, it's just such a good deal. And I always knew it was going to be a good deal. The only concern I had for me was just that injury rate. You know, how often is he getting injured? Because last season he was injured for a good proportion of the season. And for me, it worried me a little bit. But he's fit, and touch wood, he stays fit as well. But there's one player that I'm just not too sure about, if I'm being completely honest. I'm going to talk about two midfielders now. Andrei Santos, who's not got much game time at all recently, so we're going to go to him after. But Cheku Kouyaté, when he came on the pitch, he didn't seem to offer much for me. He's been a bit of a sick note as well. Obviously he's had a lot of injuries, and it's gutting because he was doing well before his first injury with Forest, his first big one with the hamstring. But he just, he's really struggled to make an impact since coming back from these injuries. And I don't really see what his place is at Forest, because when he comes on, he didn't look like he did much against Brentford.
I mean, again, I completely agree with you. As far as what Kouyaté offered us last season, I'll start off on that note. He was good. He was that good asset to have on the bench to bring on if you needed someone that can play either centre back, that defensive mid, or even in that centre mid role going forward. He's quite versatile in the fact that he can play in all three of them. Obviously, he's much better when he's in the defensive role, and he showed that last season that he had that better quality, even going forward, like in what we'd want Sangare to be doing this season, where he's still deep, but he's playing the balls out, or he's offering options out wide. He looked good. He showed that he was a real quality to us, and that it was a good bit of business to get him. I think it was on a free, wasn't it, as well? Well, but then this season comes along, and now we've got an even more upholstered midfield. It's so much more quality in that period. We've already gone over at Sangare, Domiguez, Mangala's back on form now. And then obviously we've also got Santos in, although, as I've said, we'll get to that in a minute. But I don't see in a world where Kouyaté gets in over any of them. Obviously, Yates was also injured last game out. So I'd have personally had him on over Kouyaté, even on the bench there personally. I think, again, we've already been over what Ryan Yates offers to the team, and there's numerous stats and graphics and all the different things you can find all over the internet about what Ryan Yates did for us last season, or us with Ryan Yates. But when Kouyaté came on against Brentford, and I know that's exactly what you've been asking, what did he offer, blah, blah, blah. But he didn't offer a lot. He seemed too slow, not up to the pace, not technical enough. And obviously, I know that's kind of, it's your and ah, because when a Forest ever really been a technical side, it's very much been a scrappy side going forward. We kind of keep those championship ideals, although we seem to be breaking away from it now. But he kind of kept the, like, I don't know how to word it properly, but yeah, he just wasn't quick enough on the ball. There was a moment on the ball where a ball got passed off to him, and it was a nice bit of skill from the man that passed it off to him, and it was good to keep the ball. I think it was Toffolo. Don't quote me on that. But then the ball comes to Kouyaté, and he just panics, and it just ends up with a Brentford man. And it was like, how? He's clearly shown his quality. He's done his time, but I think it's time for him to move on personally. He shouldn't be getting in a team over Ryan Yates. Obviously, like I said, injury is obviously going to be a thing. We're going to need more, depth in the squad, and Kouyaté is there to provide depth. Hence why I don't think he's actually ever started, and if he has, it's not been a lot of games. But yeah, there's far better options, especially now this season with our boosted midfield.
Yeah, and Chelsea are like having some concerns over Andrei Santos's game time, and for me, I think the most important thing that Andrei Santos can learn about the Premier League is you're not just going to get a game time because of your price tag, because of news articles wrote about you, or because of the fact that you're regarded as one of the best in Brazil. Because at the end of the day, the Premier League is ruthless, it's unforgiving, and you can very, very easily go from being one of the best in Brazil to not getting any game time here in England. And that is the thing, because Chelsea will want game time for their player because they want to see him reach his best potential. That is completely understandable. And we would want the same if we loan someone out anywhere. Let's say we brought a younger guy from Brazil and we wanted to loan him, and he's got a lot of potential. You want him to be getting game time so that you can see really what he's worth and what he's going to do in the future. But for Santos, we're in a position where it was a strange loan anyway, I thought, because I think maybe they were anticipating they're not going to get Sangare, and they're thinking, right, okay, what do? We need to bring in a midfielder, any midfielder. And then Andrei Santos is obviously a very, very good player. But is he doing good enough in training to get into our first team? Evidently not. Is he good enough performance-wise to get into our first team? Evidently not. So, whether he should have come on, for instead of Kouyaté, that's a different debate. And, he left down the tunnel early. And I personally, unless there's a good reason for that, I don't see why he's leaving early. You've got to have the right attitude if you want to play Premier League football and if you want to play for Nottingham Forest. And would I have picked him over for Kouyaté? Maybe, but then I don't watch him 6 days a week in training before that. So I don't know what his attitude's like and I don't know how he's performing. So it's a difficult debate to have. And I understand Chelsea's point. But for me, Andrei Santos, the unfortunate side to it is the Premier League's ruthless. And at the moment, we're thinking of what we want, Forest to do, and that's achieve and get more points. And if they don't feel that Andrei Santos is the strongest man to be in that midfield and replace another member of the team, then so be it. That's just how football goes. And whether you like it or not, that's the reality of how Premier League football is. And sometimes you are just a depth player for time. And that's not a nice thing. But another player I want to talk about, just before we get into a little bit about Crystal Palace, is Harry Toffolo. Because for me, I think he's going to be really important this season. And I'm going to make a very, very bold statement here. I'm going to make a bold statement. If you're going to play a back five and you're going to put Aurier right centre-back, like that's happened before, I'd be tempted to play Toffolo on the left-hand side, like left wing-back or left-back, and then play Aina on the right when he's fit. Because for me, Toffolo hasn't really done much wrong in the past. Obviously, he wasn't going to get in front of Lodi before. We understand that. And obviously now Tavares is injured. This could be a good opportunity for him to try and get into the team. He works so well, and he looks like a new player coming back from the whole betting scandal. So how important do you think he's going to be this season?
I mean, I completely agree with you. Again, I'm going to go over to what I've seen on Twitter and different takes because I don't like to just have my own. But from personally, I always enjoyed Toffolo. I thought he was a bit like scampered out last season. Obviously, don't get me wrong, he showed his times, and then he also showed his times where he wasn't very good. And then this season, again, bringing Nuno in, Aina, and then we've also got options like Nico on the bench who can play both sides. So it was always going to be hard for him to get in. But personally, I think he's shown his class. As we've also said with the betting scandal, I think it was really ironic that he got brought on against Brentford, considering him and Ivan Toney have a lot of similarities in terms of what they got done for. Obviously, the difference is Toffolo owned up for it and got suspended sentence. Toney tried to hide it and bewilder the people looking for it. But I won't go down that line. Tony's not our player. We're not here to talk about betting scandals. But when he came on, he showed a clear-cut advantage going forward. I mean, he was the one that got the assist. He put it on Domiguez's head. He was good coming back. He was good going forward. I think he was quality all over around. As you've just stated, with Nuno out, with Aina out, it's good to see him on the left side. I think when he came on for Niakate, obviously he didn't come on for Niakate. He came on to replace Niakate. He looked better going forward and defending than Niakate did, and that's a very bold statement for me to say because Niakate is arguably one of our best centre backs. But that's where he should stay, centre back. Personally, I understand he can play on the left. He wasn't bad going forward and he wasn't bad coming back. I just think in terms of getting the ball forward, the passing, the crosses, the bit of pace about him, Niakate is a very fast man, especially for a tall, beefy centre-back. But I think Toffolo's got that added bit of, I don't know what to say. I mean, to be really corny, to say sauce. You know what I mean? He's got that extra bit about him going forward. As we've already said, he got the assist. He showed a bit more threatening prowess going forward. He showed a lot more coming back. And now he's a better time than ever, especially for him, to show why he deserves that number one pick for left back or left wing back or whatever formation we choose to play him in. Even if he plays as that left-sided centre back, I think it probably wouldn't do him best, but it wouldn't be a bad option for him either.
Yeah, I agree. I just think Toffolo for me is proving to be a very solid option. And in regards to the betting thing, I'm just glad that he's got that kind of peace of mind now where he knows what the situation is. I think it's a suspended ban. So if he did anything between now and 2025, I think that he would get a ban for a couple of years. I think that's how it works, but don't quote me on it. But his average bet was £3.60. There was a history of mental health problems, so I don't think really much more can be said on the subject. It's happened now. I'm just happy that he's back on the pitch and doing good for Forest as well, because he's proving that he's putting things behind him now and he's just trying to get on with his Forest career and just do bits with us. So really impressed with him. I think for me, he's there's something a little bit Jack Colback about him because he just does what the manager asks him to, does the dirty work a little bit. And I think he's going to come and he's going to rise from the ashes, I think, a little bit like what Jack Colback did. I think he's going to be really important this season, despite what people think. So Harry Toffolo, yeah, for me, I think he's been excellent in that game against Brentford. But the last kind of topic we're going to touch on is Crystal Palace away. We're not going to talk about it too much because we'll be talking about it later in the week here. But what are you thinking about that game? Do you think they'll keep that back four, keep the same formation, not too many changes to the team?
Well, like I said, we looked good. I think the only thing that was our undoing was Niakate sending off. The actual foul he committed to get the second yellow was exactly what led to their first goal. The extra man missing was then weird because with 10 men, we seem to have a bit more about us going forward. And obviously, don't get me wrong, that's kind of what you have to do. If you're at home and you're a goal down, you have to go for it. You can't sit back and park the bus when you're on no points anyway. But we seem to have something more about us once Niakate got sent off and we had that structured back four again. So I'd like to see the same formation because it clearly works and it's clearly what we're looking towards implementing, because otherwise what's the point of bringing in wingers like Hudson-Odoi and Elanga if they're never going to get played on the wing? They're going to be played as a forward. Sorry, I'm jumbling up all my words. As like a pressing forward type of thing, or someone that just runs at the defense. You need them to be on that wing to have that bit of leg room to run at and get balls to be chased onto. So I'd like to see the same formation going on. It's going to be a very, very tough game against Palace. Palace look really good at the moment. They've just come off the back of beating United, although United aren't very good at the moment or look to ever be again. It's funny because it's funny to see such like an undoing to such a United team. I don't think that any other team I'd rather see United get undone like United. I don't know. Obviously, we'll talk about Forest, so I'll come off that topic. But yeah, Palace look really good. It's going to be a very tough game. Hodgson's got them all on form. They've got a solid squad. They're a very fit squad as well. It's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, and as well, they're missing out on Eze though, which is a big loss for them. Coming into this game, he's going to be out for months apparently. So it's a big loss for Palace, is Eze. But at the same time, they've got a lot of quality still in that team. Elise, Doucouré, Joachim Andersen. They've got so many good players, at their disposal. So it will be an interesting game, an interesting matchup, and I would like a draw because I know it's away, but we should really be fighting for a win because at the end of the day, we want to be getting 3 points. And I always say if you can't win, don't lose. But at the same time, we can't just be drawing every game. Although if you did draw every game, you'd be mathematically, you'd assume you'd be safe.
Yeah.
But you want to be getting more than that. So I'd take a draw, but I absolutely want 3 points because I know the ambition that we have now compared to last season. So hoping that we can do that. But it's going to be a tough game, as Declan says. And this is episode 4 of We All Follow the Forest podcast. So in this podcast, we've kind of gone over everything we thought about the Brentford game, a little bit about Crystal Palace, and also looking forward to future fixtures as well. So if you've enjoyed this episode with me and Declan, make sure you drop a subscribe, you follow our social media, and you also comment. Let me know your thoughts, give us your honest feedback, and let us know your thoughts on how we played against Brentford, the players that we've mentioned as well. Did we miss anyone out? Let us know. But we'll be seeing you ready for next week, Wednesday, 3 p.m, episode 5 of We All Follow the Forest podcast, discussing that Crystal Palace game and more also. So take care. We'll see you all very soon. And thank you for listening to We All Follow the Forest podcast. Come on, you Reds.